What's up, YouTube? Dax the Leader here, back with the next installment of our Battle Reviews series. This time at PTL Division 1 Finals. We got our boy Kamren versus Deetrain, who won the NSTL, which is like the previous iteration of PTL. Yeah, I think that's what happened. Anyway, I said I said the same thing when I faced him in the National Pokeball League Minors. That's a video that's up on my channel. You can go check it out, and he confirmed it in the comments or whatever. So Deetrain, known good player. I faced him a couple times and never won. Kamren, known trash player. I'm kidding. He made it to finals. He's pretty solid, but he is someone I actually have defeated at the very least. So, I definitely did want to review this battle because these are two friends, I would say. Kamren for sure, Deetrain. Yeah, I'd call Deetrain a friend, but I know he's a good player, and I know a lot of people in this league, and I am expecting a pretty hype match. I have not seen it, although I do know who wins. This is my first time watching the replay, so let's start off by predicting the leads here, or just let's try to predict all the sets actually. I think, not knowing the matchups, right, just looking at these six, what does Kamren have for something like a Torn? He's got Ferrothorn for the Coco, right? Spiritomb for the Medi, and so I think Silvally is going to be his Flying Resist, likely Electric. I wouldn't be too surprised to see. That'd make for another Coco check. Then again, Nihilego takes on Torn pretty well, bar stuff like Iron Tail and Knockoff. Latios looks like it's going to go in. Bar the Coco, he really does not have good switch-ins to a Draco Meteor. Also, Scarf Nihilego looks very dangerous. Basically, what I'm saying is that Deetrain's, he doesn't have any like special bulk, right? He's got the Slowbro and the Dredagon, which are most likely his defensive mons, and then maybe Torn, but even still, he is quite lacking on the special defensive side. So I think if Kamren's gonna win, that's how he's gonna do it. On Deetrain's side, his win con looks to be, well, for one thing, Kamren didn't bring a ground type unless that's Silvally ground, so Coco can just Volt Switch around, gain him momentum, and he's probably just going to pick stuff off. For Raichu to win, though, he really has to weaken that Ferrothorn, and probably the Latios as well. So Deetrain doesn't have any Mon that just, like, when it comes in, it picks up a kill, or once it gets going, it's just going to sweep. That's not really something that Deetrain has access to. Although, like I said, Raichu is pretty fast, and once Latios and Ferrothorn get taken out, Raichu can do a lot of work. The Tornadus as well is pretty threatening, but there is the Nihilego that kind of stops it. Alright, so I think... Oh, Deetrain only has Dredagon, I see his hazards, so that's for sure rocks. Whereas Kamren has a few options. He has the Nihilego that can be rocks or Toxic Spikes. Deetrain's only removal being the Torn and the Coco. Torn's off the ground, so that's probably his defogger this week. Kamren also has two defoggers, but isn't that weak to Stealth Rock himself. So, yeah, I do think Kamren's probably going to want to lead off with something that matches up well against the Coco, but also something that can, like, threaten with hazards. So I think Ferrothorn is going to lead. And then I think he's going to have a way to scout for the Heat Wave, or Nihilego, actually, because Nihilego beats Coco and Torn, or at least it forces them out. So that's going to be Kamren's lead, and then I don't see Deetrain leading with anything other than Coco or Torn, unless if he wants to predict the Nihilego or the Ferrothorn, like, he just runs coverage on either of those two mons. but I don't think he has like a counter lead necessarily. All right, so that's what I'm predicting. Let's play the game. And here comes the Torn, as I expected, with the that's the Spiritomb predicting the Medicham, which was also potentially an option, but Medicham's too slow. Like, yeah, he could have clicked Fake Out just to get his Mega Evolution off, but I don't think that's a priority of Deetrain's because of that Spiritomb. So here Kamren essentially reveals that his Nihilego is his default switching into the Tornadus and does get knocked off. That's the play I would have made as well. And he loses the Choice Scarf. That's a pretty big deal. But he goes for a knockoff again, revealing that that's the best way for him to hit the Nihilego and that he really doesn't have good switch-ins, which is something I predicted at the beginning. So, let's see. And it is faster now without that Choice Scarf on Nihilego. Thunderbolt does a ton. But now, if Deetrain wants to keep his Tornadus, he has to switch out and take a ton of damage on something. So Kamren might just predict and go for the hazards here. He just Sledge Waves, which does nearly 50%, and decides to go for it again and gets glared. And Deetrain is just going to continue to switch around, preserve his Dronegon, not let this thing get the Beast Boost. His regen core is pretty nice here, but ultimately, like, Nihilego has done a ton of work already, weakening the Torn and the Slowbro, each at under 50% right now, and the Dronegon being at 5%. That's huge. So I, would feel totally comfortable sacking off Nihilego right here. Now Spiritomb can come out for free, and what's he gonna do? He sets up a Calm Mind. Alright, so the only thing that Kamren has to beat that Deetrain has to kill off this Spiritomb now is the Coco with a Fairy type move, but Dronegon does reveal the Roar. I do expect the Spiritomb to have something like Rest in order to, well, yeah, because just it has no other way to combat status like a Toxic, right? Ferrothorn gets pulled in here, and now I guess we trade hazards. That's exactly what happens. Alright. Fire Punch gets revealed. That does quite a lot, but the Iron Barbs take him out, and a layer of spikes go up. So, Kamren does decide just to stay in and Gyro Ball the Tornadus. Okay. I'm gonna cut that. That's interesting. Now, I guess my question is, what reason did Deetrain have not to go for Heat Wave? And I guess the answer to that is it lets in Latios for free, but there is the threat of U-turn. So I don't really see Latios coming in there just because of how, like, U-turn I think is like on the same level as Defog in terms of second most obvious play, right? You could just attack what's in front of you by going for the Heat Wave. That lets in something like Latios, at which point you decide to predict with Defog, or you U-turn. But I guess Deetrain figured he wouldn't risk his Ferrothorn, and he does. If he lost his Ferrothorn, though, he doesn't really have much for the Coco at that point, unless that's like a Silvally designed to check the Coco, which, based on this play, I'm assuming it is. He decided it was worth it to potentially, to make that risk. I don't think that was like a play you had to make there, right? It's great to make plays like that when you're in the back, but I think Latios could have come in there, and then worst case he gets in Coco versus your Latios, but like you could just Psychic still because Raichu and Slowbro can't really do anything back. Slowbro probably dies to Psychic plus anything, and Raichu's Frail. So I do think Latios coming in there would have made like a lot of sense, but Kamren decides to make a quite aggressive play, I think, risking his Ferrothorn and trading the Torn in the process. Obviously it worked out for him, but was it worth it? Like I said, I think this does reveal that Silvally is designed to check the Koko. So I guess from that standpoint it makes sense, but let's find out what this Koko is. Sorry, what this Silvally is before, and then we'll revisit that play later. So he does decide to get in the Medicham here and just go for a Drain Punch. That lives thanks to the Chople Berry, and it's gonna die to a Gyro Ball. That's awesome. That's some pretty good tech right there. It would have died to a High Jump Kick, but yeah, that's interesting because I guess there's no reason not to go for that. Like, rather than going Spiritomb, you risk. You showed that Spiritomb was your switch into Medicham earlier, or even I don't even know. He didn't switch it into the Medicham, did he? I'm scrolling up here. Yeah, he did actually. Well, he brought it in safely, like after the Nihilego died, he brought in Spiritomb on Medicham. So, assuming that Deetrain would predict Spiritomb, which he doesn't even do, then he just attacked. So yes, this Ferrothorn is 100% being sacked right now. And I guess Deetrain did recognize that by going for the Drain Punch, but the Ferrothorn had the tech. That tech Gyro Ball. I don't disagree with that at all. I think because of the threat of Spiritomb, it's not, like, I don't think it's a good idea to run High Jump Kick in this game, and so EVing a Ferrothorn to live something like that, not, or like, assuming that it's Drain Punch because you don't live a High Jump Kick at that range, I think that was not that big a risk. So Kamren's gotten huge value out of this Ferrothorn, killing off two of Deetrain's massive offensive threats. But now the Koko's in, Ferrothorn probably goes down here, as it does go down to a Dazzling Gleam. And now once Latios dies, the Raichu is looking like a really big threat. So he does get Lopunny in here. And that Koko, I guess, could have been Scarf, but again, with so many resists to his stab moves, it's not that likely. This is just a fake out last resort Lopunny, which I did not consider actually that Deetrain did not have a normal resist on this team. I didn't realize that, but yeah, from the start it looked like Kamren had the matchup here. So this is another massive offensive threat that I didn't even take into account at the beginning of the game. But let's see how much this does. That did, holy crap, 70% to a Fizdef Slowbro, and it dies to Toxic. So the poison doesn't really even matter on Slowbro because Lopunny just clicked on. Well, actually it does, because he could have switched out, I guess, and got the regen back, but it's not like he would have taken another one. So there you go, that's that. And then assuming, well, this forces it out because of the ability that makes it faster. And he goes for a Z, Never-Ending Nightmare. Alright, that's a good set. The Raichu here, yeah, the Lopunny was such a big threat that Deetrain had to go for the Psychic, I think. The Psychic type attack. And I think that's it, because this Raichu can't kill Latios in one hit. Nope. Shadow Ball, and then that just dies. Alright. And Kamren becomes the PTL Division 1 champion. I don't think anyone was going to predict that. But I would like to know what Deetrain's full team was, because he had a pretty awful matchup here. No normal resist, one dragon resist, and also very weak to the Nihilego. I think throughout the course of the game, I think Deetrain over-predicted, whereas Kamren was just able to click buttons, essentially, especially near the beginning with his Nihilego, right? How many mons did he chip, right? Let's just reset them. So after this, let's see. Did Torn take damage here? It did. It took like 73, right? This goes down to 10%. This goes down to like 40%. And this goes down to just under 50% as well. So, this whole time, he knew he was going to lose Torn. So this switch is understandable. Then, this, he kind of needed to glare this thing because he didn't have a good way to revenge kill, because he could never really get in Coco safely. But at this point, I think he was relying on Regenerator, right? So in the end, it says these, I don't remember how this works, how regen works. Does it say the health? Because this is the health they came out at, but they're gonna come in much healthier, right? Anyway, I do kinda, I totally see what Deetrain was going for, right? He wanted to basically pivot around using his Regenerator mons, in order to get in an offensive threat versus this Nihilego. Whereas Kamren attacked what was in front of him every turn. Right here, so you switch out of the Torn, you go to this to glare, but at this point, why not just go Metacham, right? You take the unnecessary damage on Slowbro and you get poisoned. Maybe he was hoping Slowbro would take the hit a lot better, but it doesn't, right? And then Metacham comes in and takes the 46. So, Sludge Wave I doubt would have killed. So why not just go Metacham instead of the Slowbro? Unless he thought... The only reason not to do that is if Deetrain predicted Kamren to fear that the Dredagon was faster than the Nihilego after paralysis, and just kill it. But because it is paralyzed, I think Nihilego isn't that useful, and it already chipped down this Dredagon a ton, and chipped down the Tornadus quite a lot. And it can no longer revenge kill, so yeah, Nihilego has done its job. So this goes back to my point that Kamren spent most of this game just realizing what he could afford to sack and just attacking what was in front of him, while Deetrain kind of like was forced to predict a lot of the time here. I do kind of think this Slowbro play was unnecessary, and it got him poisoned, so there you go. That I think that did kind of end up mattering because of this turn with the Lopunny. Right there, I mentioned that a few... Wait. When did this happen? There. Slowbro comes in, takes the last resort, and then dies to poison. So, yes. Deetrain was on the back foot from the start just because of the matchup. And he had to make plays in order to, like, get back into it. But I do think for a finals game, it is, like, you should expect your opponent to scout for you, is what I'm saying. You should expect your opponent to watch your past replays and kind of figure out how you play. And Maybe this is a little bit biased because I know Kamren very well, but these are the kind of plays that Kamren makes. He doesn't preserve things that he doesn't need to preserve if he can just attack what's in front of him. And fair enough, most people, I think, that like it's not a bad play to ever to do that, really, unless you make the wrong judgment call and you actually do need something. But yeah, especially because Deetrain had such a bad matchup, I think he should have expected Kamren to, like, I think Deetrain definitely overpredicted on multiple turns in this game. So yes, you need to make plays to get yourself out of a bad situation, to put momentum back in your favor, but you should also take into account what your opponent can afford to risk versus what they can afford not to risk. And that's just it. So I think that's the bottom line here. The making plays to get back in the game is not a 100% definitive answer, and sometimes, as you can see here, it can severely cost you. So that's our lesson today. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to retweet, leave a like, and maybe even subscribe. But until next time, later guys.